If you're buying a new construction home in 2025, this video is for you. First and foremost, I'm just going to go over the pros and the cons of buying new construction. But at the end of the video, if you wait to the end, I'm going to share with you some real life scenarios. Literally had a conversation yesterday with a client, massive builder incentives, what you should and should not do when faced with these incentives. And even if you're not buying new construction, I've got some advice for you as a buyer of a resale home, what you can do to structure that like it's a new construction home with incentives. So let's jump straight into the pros and the cons. I got a list here. If I can get my mouse to turn on, come on, mousey, where are you at? Let's go. There we are. All right. Pros and cons. Pros, everything is brand new, should be, even if they don't use as good of materials as they used in the past, at least it's brand new. A lot of builders have warranties, and so you're going to, be able to, for the first year or two, know that they're going to cover stuff if it breaks. You get to customize it, customizable options. If you want certain color countertops or if you want certain color cabinets, sometimes you can add things like solar and whatnot. You get to customize it. Energy efficient. If your house is built in 2025, it's going to be more energy efficient than something that's built in the 1940s. That's common sense, right? You're going to have dual pane windows throughout, and that's going to save you some money on a monthly basis with your energy bills. Less competition, usually the case, not always the case, but a lot of builders now have a lot of inventory. You're not going to be bidding against the other 6 families that are really want this specific home in this neighborhood that's close to the schools, where only one house gets put up for sale every 3 months. There's a lot of neighborhoods like that. And, so it would be less competitive than that situation. Lower maintenance costs. That's, it in parentheses initially, right? Because you don't expect stuff to break in a new home, at least for the first few years. Incentives for builders. This is the one that, in my opinion, is the biggest one as a pro. They are, especially in cases where they've built too many homes, they've built them farther from city centers, and they're having trouble selling them. They're going to offer you massive incentives, $100,000 incentive that I talked to a client about in Southern California yesterday. At the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do with that $100,000 incentive. But either way, paying your closing costs, buying down your interest rate, adding, upgrades and whatnot, those incentives, they're real. Okay, let's go to the cons. Higher cost. You might just pay $800,000 for a $700,000 house, then be given a $100,000 incentive and felt like you won. So not always the case, but in general, new construction is going to be a higher cost. Delays in construction, that one, not always the case. I think there's a lot of stuff that's finished and ready, but in some cases I had buyers that were looking to get in the summer, get their kids started in school, and they had delays until December or even next March. And that was frustrating for buyers. Landscaping, community may be incomplete. The store that they're building might not be built for another 18 months. Half of the development isn't built yet. The landscaping isn't in. So you might be living in kind of like a construction zone with amenities not ready because they're not built yet in some of these developments. Smaller lots. Most buyers that I talk to, this is like the biggest thing that they have issue with, is they don't want to live 7 feet from their next door neighbor, and they want more of a backyard than literally patio door to back fence of 9 feet, with a 3-foot strip of grass. That's not the kind of living that some people want. For some people, that's great. Sometimes you got 2 working professionals with no kids and no dogs, and they don't need a big backyard. 2 patio chairs and they're good to go. But a lot of times, families or pet owners, they want a bigger lot. HOAs and rules. New developments a lot of times come with an HOA. So it's not just the fees where you're like, man, I got to pay $245 a month to this HOA. They're also going to tell you what you can and can't do. Restrictions on a house that you own. Some people don't like that. Limited negotiation on price. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would necessarily put this one up there in the current environment where a lot of places might feel a little bit overbuilt. Even though there's limited inventory in the real estate market as a whole, you might be 30 miles from city center and there's not enough demand to sell 500 of these homes. And so I think you can negotiate price. But what builders do a lot of times is, instead of giving you a price reduction, they give you an incentive increase because they want that home price to stay at the level they set it at, so that everything else in the community, has a comparable sale, right? Like if they take one house from 800,000 down to 740, that hurts the value of the whole community versus like, look, we sold it for 800,000. And then the fine print's like, yeah, you gave $100,000 in incentive. Um, Location trade-offs. Like I talked about, these new developments aren't always situated really close to city centers. They build them in areas where they can buy land, and a lot of times the land's cheaper if it's 30 miles from city center. It might look attractive, brand new home, 2,400 square feet. Look, I can get it for this price. Then you realize, man, I hate driving 30 minutes to get my kids to school every single day. I hate driving 30 minutes to go to, city center where the best restaurants and entertainment and whatnot is. So there's going to be a location trade-off. Okay. Lastly, I want to talk to you about what you should and shouldn't do when presented with builder incentives, which can be a humongous benefit to you. I've got endless clients, friends, family that have moved, and they've moved to an area and said, listen, the builder got me a 4.75 30-year fixed. Kind of irregardless of what they paid for the home, it made sense from a monthly payment perspective. And so it was a good deal. In an environment where the average rate is in the high sixes and you're getting something sub 5%, sounds like a smoking deal. But be careful. It's not always what it seems. Yesterday's conversation I had, like I'm using this example, $100,000 incentive. And the first issue I had was the builder's lender was trying to use $80,000 of that credit to buy the interest rate down to 5.75%. Now, 5.75% on this larger loan size was going to save the buyer a significant amount of money. But if I looked at what I could offer as a broker, I could get close to 6% for $50,000 less. So if I can get to 6 with a $30,000 buy down, and they're offering 5.75 and spending $80,000 on it, that 0.25%, I think it was $300 because it was a large loan amount. Still 50,000 divided by 300 is over a 10-year break even. It's like 14 or 15, like, what's that? 150 divided by 300 goes into it 150 times. That's 12 years is 144, 12 and a half year break even. Come on, man. Like you're not going to be in that loan for 12 and a half years. If the builder is buying down to 4.75, I might actually buy it, right? You might be in that loan for 12 and a half years. But 5.75, there's a good enough chance that you might be in a position to refinance that 5.75 or 5.5 or 5.25 in the next 3 to 5 years. I'm not saying rates are there in 6 months, but do not spend the 80,000, in my opinion, to go to 5.75. Look at other options. There's $27,000 in closing costs when you include prepaying taxes and insurance. And maybe you can prepay HOA. There's other stuff to use that credit on, where this is where the conversation I had this morning with a colleague of mine, Mr. Nash Paradise, talk to a professional. And what I'm telling you is have a professional in your corner, even if you're buying a new build, even if you're going to use that builder's lender. I'm talking to these clients that I've worked with in the past. I'm talking to new clients to me where I'm happy to give that advice. You might use this new build lender for this purchase. I might help you refinance in 3.5 years. I might help your cousin buy a resale home where there's no builder incentive and builder's lender. I might help your colleague buy or refinance. So I'm happy to help. The advice is always free. If it's me and my team, great. If it's somebody else you like and trust, great. But whatever the case is, the builders, generally speaking, and I'm not trying to, paint them all the same, get you into their ecosystem. You use their in-house agent, you use their in-house lender, and it's not always the best advice. So you probably want to bring your own agent who represents you in your best interest. You probably want to bring your own lender. In some cases, I've also had buyers of mine that went into a situation where the builder really wanted to sell the house. And the buyer said, I'm working with Matt. I like and trust Matt. If you're not willing to give me that incentive and let me use my lender, then I won't buy the house. No big deal. And I told him, I said, listen, man, like you do what's best for you and your family. You don't have to use us. And he said, I'm just going to offer that to them and see what happens. The builder offered the incentive, even though I wasn't their, in-house lender. And a lot of these builders, they own, Lennar Homes owns Lennar Lending as well. So a lot of stuff you can do. Lastly, if you're buying a resale home, use this same kind of structure and strategy of a seller credit. And in the resale world, it's a seller credit. It's not a builder credit. Just structure a mortgage that makes sense. If I showed you what it looks like to pay $585 and take a market rate of, call it 6.875, or to pay $600,000 with a $15,000 credit, and what that would do to your monthly payment, saving you hundreds of dollars per month on your monthly payment by paying more, $600,000 with $15,000 credit. That's some of the stuff that builders do because they know it's what makes sense for the consumer, what the consumer likes. So as a consumer, go out there and negotiate that for yourself, even if you're not buying new construction, if you're buying a resale home. Hopefully this helps. As always, if you want to connect me and my team, go to greatmortgagebroker.com, fill out the quick form. We will be in touch and we'll do our best to give you the best advice possible, whether you're buying new construction, whether you're buying resale, whether you're working with us, whether you're not. Greatmortgagebroker.com. Thanks for watching. Until next time.